Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to A Girl in Love with Tech podcast. My name is Rachel Rabo. I'm a Microsoft MVP, a Power Platform, and a Dynamics 365 CRM developer. I'm currently on a series on AI where I have brought in different guests to talk about if your AI is ready, your data is ready for AI. We've talked about copyrights in AI and so many different other topics in AI. And today I have Alexa. And we are going to be talking about how AI is transforming content creation and SEO. So, hi, Alexa.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. So excited to talk about this topic. It's been something that I've been seeing so much about over the last couple of years, and I'm really
Yeah,
excited to share it with you and chat more about it.
yeah, definitely. And I'm definitely, as a content creator, I'm definitely looking forward to this topic, especially on content creation, SEO, and content engagement. It's really, really awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, no, happy to chat. So let's get into it.
Yes. So, if you can go ahead and introduce yourself so that we can know more about you.
Yeah, so my name is Alexa. I'm a brand media and content strategist who helps creative brand leaders become tastemakers by turning their point of view into unforgettable content. I've
Oh,
worked with over 20 enterprises, startups, and entrepreneurs to grow their brands with content marketing. My background is in both tech and journalism. So I spent a handful of years working in house for a tech company, writing, doing a lot of content marketing, a lot of social media marketing. So I'm no stranger to the tech world. So
yeah.
I've written a lot about like data, blockchain, analytics, all
Okay.
sorts of fun stuff like that. And since leaving the corporate world, I'm now shifting my gears to really taking my corporate content experience and taking it to small businesses, online service providers, and that stuff. And I also have over 10 years of just writing on the internet. I started my first blog when I was 18, and I've kind
Wow.
of just
Yeah.
kept writing ever since.
That's really amazing and interesting. I love your work role. You are doing so many things and it's really, really amazing, both in technology and also writing. I think for me, I started writing in 3 years ago and I started it as a documentation, as a learning documentation. So it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like writing is such like an underrated thing. Like a lot we use writing a lot more than we think we do in business, even
Yeah.
if we aren't like a writer by trade. So like if you're writing social media content, if you're writing emails, if you're writing, blog posts and stuff, you're
Yeah.
writing stuff. And so I
Yeah.
feel like we don't prioritize it like in school and stuff, like in
Yeah.
our like undergraduate or graduate education as much as we need to because it's so prevalent in everything that we do.
Yeah. Thank you. And I think I have like 4 or 5 questions for you. And if you're listening to this podcast, if you have any question concerning how AI is changing content engagement and SEO, you can definitely ask your questions in the comment section. And also, this podcast is streamed live on my LinkedIn profile and also on my YouTube channel. So you can follow and also leave a comment if you have any questions. Yeah, so my first question is how is AI changing how we optimize content?
Yeah, so there's kind of a few shifts that we're starting to see here. A few weeks ago, Ryan
Yeah.
Law, he's the director of content for Ahrefs, which is like an
Okay.
SEO platform. He
Yeah.
kind of shared this analysis of HubSpot's organic traffic, and HubSpot is kind of known in the content SEO industry as kind of the creme of the creme with SEO
Okay.
optimized content. They're the ones
Yeah.
who like have had the playbook on how to like have good optimized content, but they saw a huge drop off in organic traffic come like
Okay.
January. And so
Yeah.
it's really just showing how search patterns are changing.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
yeah, and clicks and everything. And a lot of it I think is because of Google's AI updates where now you can search something and it kind of aggregates like the top search results into
Yeah.
that top section right there. So you kind of get
Okay.
that AI summary of whatever the top 5 hits will tell you. So people are clicking less and they're doing more traditional searching less.
Yeah.
Instead of doing like search through Google, they'll take their questions to something like ChatGPT or Claude.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a search a lot less. And we're also seeing SEO content as kind of this like oversaturation right now, where
Okay.
everybody, like, if you want to get in the SEO game, you're kind of late to the game as of now in 2025, because
Okay.
all the big names have
Well,
taken all the high volume keywords and they've built the
yeah.
domain authority around it. So we're kind of in this SEO bubble that makes it difficult to rank.
Yeah.
And that said, with AI as well, we're seeing a lot more like junk content, like where
Okay.
anybody can, if you write like, if you ask AI like a question like, what is, I don't know, data architecture or something, it will give
Okay.
you
Yeah.
literally a whole SEO article like written about it that you can copy and paste. So
Yes.
it's really demeaning and devaluing the true expertise that these SEO articles used to have. So
Yeah.
anybody or anything can write them. So it's really questioning the value of content. So the content's
Okay.
now becoming surface level, not really deep. But then Google is now coming back and saying, hey, we're only going to rank original content. So as content people, it kind of asks us like, okay, how can we change our content to
Yeah.
differentiate from the AI generated content while also showing value and expertise in the content? So I think we're going to be
Okay.
shifting like the structure of the content from being a lot more like how to content versus more
Okay.
like how the company does something, or what's like a unique process or
Yeah.
something
That's
like that.
amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
a
those are
really
kind
good
of the big
idea. Yeah.
shifts.
Yeah. And I think I was talking to someone recently, and you're talking about writing like a technical article, and they have where they're saying that this particular topic has so much content online. We don't want it to be how to. We want it to how you. We want you to place this article in how to solve a business problem for a company. So that's what you're just saying. So it's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, and I think it's a really great way to kind of infuse more of like the businesses like
Yeah.
frameworks or methodologies that's like makes it unique, because to me,
Yeah.
if I'm searching online and I'm trying to decide between different platforms, right? Like as a
Okay.
consumer, if I'm reading like a very like basic surface level article, it's not going to help me make a decision, like a buying decision of why I should choose this company over its competitor.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much. And there's something you mentioned that I'm curious about. You talk about how like the search engine now is very, very different from what it was before, and how you can just do a search. Like people are no longer using so much of Google search or the normal search engine that we have. People are now going to AI chat services to ask their question, to either ChatGPT, Gemini, or to Copilot to ask their questions. So there's something that if you, especially when you're using Google Chrome, that there's something that happens. So when you are doing a search, like Google AI can just give you a summary of that particular question, and they can also suggest videos or topics to go for. Do you think that there's a way that people can actually reach to that point where Google AI can suggest their content?
Yeah, and it's actually really interesting because I watched this video a few weeks ago from, she's like a Squarespace website designer and
Yeah.
developer, and she had talked about this concept of optimizing for AI versus
Okay.
optimizing for search. And
Yeah.
so basically what she was talking about is our search queries in for AI are very conversational. Like we're asking it very specific like questions,
Yeah.
not just like how to bake cookies, but maybe
Yeah.
like how to bake cookies in high altitude, or something a
Oh,
little bit more specific than that.
yeah.
And so like when we're writing content, we should think about
Okay.
that like as we're writing it. So instead of being like how to do this really generic thing, like how can we get more specific and think more conversationally about
Yeah.
the topic, so then AI is ending up scraping that content to be used in those Google results. So, and
Yeah.
it's also about structuring the content too to make it like really skimmable, really readable, really
Okay.
like easy to digest. So then AI can easily kind of comb it and pull from it to then end up in those like top search results.
Yeah, that's really, really amazing. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm a content creator, so that will help me a lot. Thank you for letting me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, and it's we're kind of in this like really uncharted territory right now in terms of like what the future is and like what's going to work and what's not going to work because
yeah,
like right now we're seeing, oh, hey, everything that we've known to do for the last 15 years is like not the case anymore. And so
yeah,
it's a lot of like uncharted territory and we're kind of all in this together as to figure out like what's working, what's not working. But I'm just noticing myself is like I'm just as a consumer tired of really basic
yeah,
content, and I'm really encourage my clients and the people I work with to really get deeper and get more personal and get more journalistic, if you will,
yeah,
as opposed to just doing these like how-to articles that you
yeah.
can basically find by searching AI.
Yes. And the next question I have to ask is like, is AI improving or replacing right now?
Mhm. I
Yeah,
mean, so my thing is, I think we need to work with AI to get the
yeah,
best results from it.
yeah,
There's a lot of people in my space who are of the mind of like, hey, like I'm never going to use AI for anything. I'm never going to like use it in my work and blah blah blah. But like
yeah,
I think if you I think if you don't adapt to it, you're going to fall behind because
yeah.
AI is not going anywhere. Like as we've
Nope.
seen especially in the SaaS world, every product has incorporated some sort of AI over the last year, like from project
Yeah,
management tools to content creation tools to whatever. So it's not going anywhere. So we need to work
no,
with it instead of against it. Um, that being said, I think we end up trying to make it better because we're the one putting the prompts and we're searching it. So we're
yes,
kind of like feeding it the information it needs. But I
yeah.
think it can be a really powerful tool to work with us instead of against us.
Yeah, sure. And a lot of people, when they have this mindset that, okay, AI is going to take my job, AI is not going to take your job if you are learning, you are good with prompts. It actually helps you to make your job more productive and makes everything much easier for you. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think too, it really gives us an opportunity to be more critical thinkers and really kind of develop more sense of taste and sense of perspective and some stuff that makes us unique, like unique
yeah,
versus the content that we're seeing. So it kind of gives us a chance to go a little bit deeper
yes,
versus like, something generic. Because AI, like you've used it, I've used it, like the responses
yeah,
are very, very like very basic, but we can use it as a base and really just kind of add our own spin and add our own thing on it. So it's going to really help us, I think, with discernment, if anything.
yeah, yeah. And we have from gifts, and just like Alexa's opinion, I also believe this is going to drive creators to be more original and creative in perspective, more like niching down.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think
Yeah,
like it's gonna really instead of us being more generalists, we're gonna be this really niche specialist.
yeah,
Because like and even myself, like as a person who has written a lot of content over the years, I
yes,
figured out that for me, like my bread and butter is really the long form stuff. So like
yeah,
blogging, email newsletters, case studies, like things that are more deep in nature and
yeah,
everything, and it's allowed me to kind of like hone in on that and figure that out. So yeah, I think it's going to allow us to be more niched.
yeah. And my next question I have is that what's when you look through, because right now we have so many AI tools right now out there. We have so many AI tools. So the question I have to ask you is that what are the when it comes to content creation, what suggestions do you give? Like what powerful AI tools do you give that people can use for content creation?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, ChatGPT, Claude, a lot of people I know use platforms for like repurposing. So if their video,
Yeah,
like for example, this live stream, for example, you could use
yes,
like a repurposing tool. I know there's so many out there and I can't think of a specific one off the top of my head, but to like
okay,
break up videos into like
yeah,
shorter, like short form pieces of content. I know a lot of people
yeah,
do stuff like that if they are
yes,
like big video creators. I know
okay,
like for things like auto captions to make things more
yeah,
accessible if you're making like reels or TikTok videos.
Yes.
I've seen a lot like with AI summaries. Like I love using video platforms when I'm on like discovery calls, for example, and it'll generate these summaries that I could then use for proposal writing or
Yeah.
like things like that, or like recap. So I think
Okay.
there's a lot of like powerful tools, and that doesn't even like scrape the surface. I
Yes.
know like no, I use Notion, for example, for my project management. I know they have like AI summary tools that you can use for like
Yeah.
if you have a podcast show notes or something, you could do an AI summary tool to help you write an email for your audience for that. So
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
I think if anything, it helps in the outline research stage and kind of in the repurposing stage the most.
Okay. Yeah, that's really amazing. And I have another question to ask you is that how does AI help in generating high quality contents, written
Yeah,
contents?
so I think for me personally, it's really good to give you an outline to work with. So
Okay.
I use ChatGPT a lot for like brainstorming and research,
Yeah.
mostly to make sure I cover all the angles, right? Because
Okay.
sometimes there's things like I can think of like all the angles, but then sometimes I'm missing some. So I'll ask
Yes.
it like, hey, I'm writing something on XYZ. Can you
Yeah.
give me like an outline? And then I'll kind of like
Yeah,
skim
I
what
definitely
it
do
gives.
that.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
kind of like skim like all the topics. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about this, or oh, maybe
Yeah.
I need to like do some more research on this. So it
Yeah.
kind of gives me like a good starting point and kind of like a catalyst. So I think
Okay.
it can give you some like direction.
Yes.
It's only as really good as the prompts that you feed it. So I ask it like very, very specific prompts and to get
Mhm.
the answers that I want. Um,
Yes.
and I think the quality also depends on like the non AI stuff that you add. So it's like, can you add like some examples, some stories, some
Okay.
anecdotes, like anything else? So that's really where that like high value is going to come in. AI
Yeah.
kind of just gives you that base, but you can't like take everything word for word from it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, then it's just going to be like another
True.
mediocre kind of like bland piece of content that you can tell was written by AI.
Yeah, you actually need to fill it in. Yeah, if not, most people, I think most people, when you look at a content, they're able to differentiate if this content was written by human or by AI.
And it's crazy. I didn't think I'd have that radar, but like a couple
Yeah.
months ago I was working on a project and I was like doing some research, and a lot of the
Yes.
SEO content that I found on that topic was it sounded like it was written by AI. Like it didn't go deep. It was very just like straight to the point, like all
Yeah.
this stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay. So again, which reiterates my point of
Yes.
like the value of the content, like that, where you can literally just copy paste it and slap it up on your website. Like that's
Yeah.
not it's not great. And like, yeah, like, and I think too with these enterprises, like the small business people like that I
Okay.
associate with in my world, they're already on to the next thing. Like no one is like focusing on SEO, but then you go to these
Yeah.
bigger enterprises that have like 5, 10, 15,000 employees, and everyone is still stuck in the SEO game as like a
Yeah.
content strategy. And I'm like, guys, this is kind of passe. It's kind of like done and it's already changing. So it just goes to show like how the
Yeah.
trends change so quickly.
Yeah. And it's amazing that the world is changing so fast. There's something that somebody has said recently, like if something is happening, you need to always, especially when it comes to tech, you need to always be updated. You need to follow, not really follow the trends where you leave what you are doing and then you follow the trend. You can incorporate it to what you already to what you are already doing
Mhm.
already. Like for SEO now or content creation, you can bring AI into what you already have. Yeah. So it's really amazing and it's so fast.
Oh, yeah, like, it's crazy
Yeah.
too, and a lot of people in my world, like, in the freelance
Yeah.
writing, B2B SaaS world, they are like, a lot of people are already they're not necessarily, like, what's the phrase? They're not necessarily, like, they're being asked to edit for AI versus
Yeah.
like, oh, like let's create content from scratch. So that's kind of creating a new job for people where it's like,
Yes.
hey, I have this kind of like AI generated content. I need like an
Yeah.
actual writer and editor to come in and like edit the content. So that
Yeah.
it's kind of shifting like job roles and stuff too in terms of content creation.
Yeah. And we have a question from Gift. Gift is saying, do you see a possibility in the future where search engines like Google will begin to check human originality of blogs or web content to control search ranking. It said my concerns are around data governance and abuse of content online.
Honestly, that's a really good point. I
Yeah,
haven't thought too much about like the data governance
yeah,
aspect, but I mean, I know there's like these AI detectors out there that I know companies will use to test that, but they're not that
yeah,
accurate. Like I've seen a lot of like people post almost like a meme, like on Twitter or X rather, of
yeah,
like, oh, like my original blog like was detected as being written using AI, and then or
yes,
you have the opposite problem of an
yeah,
AI blog being like passed as a human original blog. So
yeah,
I mean, I feel like Google, I know they're prioritizing original content now. So they must have some sort of like algorithm or something that they use in the ranking process.
okay,
When it comes to like determining like is this original content or is this AI generated content. I don't know this
yeah,
too much about the science or the tech behind it, but I know
okay,
like that's what Google has been prioritizing. But I would not be surprised if they're going to start doing more like human verification checking,
yeah,
especially as AI content becomes more prevalent. I think I read some stat that was like by 2026 or 2027, like 90% of the content's gonna be like AI generated online. I don't know like how
wow,
accurate
that's
that
going to be
is.
really bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be a crazy
yeah,
high amount of content.
yes, yeah. And I have a last question to ask you. So I have a question like, how does AI optimize content for SEO and engagement?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like touched on this a little bit, but I think
Yeah,
it's almost like we're gonna start seeing the shift of content being optimized for AI as opposed to
yeah,
just search. And like kind of already seeing search change, like where if you do a Google search, right, you
yes,
not only will see web pages, you'll see TikTok videos that come up, you'll
yeah,
see YouTube videos that come up.
yes,
So, or maybe even Pinterest, like all these
yeah,
platforms that also have search and like search type capabilities. I think we're not going to just see optimization just for Google anymore. I think we're going to have to start
okay,
seeing it for these different types of things. Kind of like I mentioned, we're AI is pulling all this content, so we need to make it
yeah,
more like optimized for AI. I don't know how it's like going, how people are adapting to like SEO. I think the keyword stuff is still going to be important, but I don't think it's going to
okay,
be as like, oh, we need to stuff these 30 keyword phrases in this blog to get it to rank. I think it's going to be
yeah,
called like SEO light, where it's like
okay,
a light emphasis so people like can find some search stuff, but it's going to be
yeah,
more on like the storytelling and like the value that the articles are going to be putting out. And it's just
yeah,
changing how we write and how we do that, where anybody can take an SEO content, like somebody can be sitting in a dark room like on the other side
yes,
of the world writing SEO content, whereas something that's more storytelling where you have to maybe go talk to like a subject matter expert or something, not everybody can produce that type of content, and it's really going to have
yes,
us put on our more like community relationship
sure,
building hats, as opposed to like, oh, I'm just gonna like get this brief from this company and just do this research. It's gonna like actually
yeah,
force us to like talk to people, which will be interesting to see. I'm curious myself to see. All of this is just very theoretical at this point because
yeah,
like we're just going off of what the big guys like HubSpot and like the big guys of like who built the playbook
yes,
like are doing and everything. And so now we're kind of rewriting rules and it's kind of a
okay,
lawless land out there. So I'm really excited to see kind of how it evolves. But I
yes,
think we're definitely at like where there's going to be a pendulum swing from this really like generic boring to
okay,
more like real value content to show
yeah.
that expertise.
Yeah, and I think I have a question that I'm curious about when it comes to optimization and AI. Do you think, apart from creating of blog posts and every other resources that we have online, do you think it's also affecting YouTube videos?
Like in terms of like search,
Yes, search. Yeah.
I don't know, because I know YouTube. I don't know that much about.
Okay.
I'm talking a lot from like the written content perspective, so like
Yeah.
blogs and articles.
Yes.
YouTube, I haven't seen actually a lot with like YouTubes and podcasts.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of mixed reviews about like whether SEO is like really important. But again, it's like that search capability. Like YouTube is
Yeah.
basically like a search platform. So I think
Yes.
keywords are still going to be like really important, especially in like channel descriptions, titles, maybe
Yeah.
even thumbnails too.
Okay.
But yeah, but I don't know. That's actually a really good point. I don't know how
Yeah.
it's changing video and like podcasts, like more of those like audio visual formats.
Okay. And I think I have a last question. I said the last question before, but now I
It's
have a last
okay. It's
question.
okay. We can just keep
So,
yapping.
yeah, good. Thank you. So, anybody who is just starting their SEO game or they are trying to come into this space, what do you think, especially with the way AI is right now, where do you think they should start from?
So
Yeah.
I like to say, and I like to
Yeah.
tell my clients this, SEO is just a tool. It should not be your entire content strategy. And I think that's the
Yeah.
mistake a lot of people make is like especially a startup, for example. Like they're like,
Yeah.
oh, we need to go all in on SEO content to like get customers to our site, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But like when you really should be focusing on like getting the customers instead of like, oh, let's like optimize this. So I think I think figure out the purpose of like your content strategy. Like, is your
Okay.
content to nurture your relationships? Is it to get your customers? Is it to like you got to find your why first. And then
Yes.
if SEO makes sense, you need to kind
Yeah.
of focus. I would focus more on like the long tail, low
Yeah.
traffic keywords because those are gonna you're gonna be having an easier time ranking for those
Okay. Yeah.
as opposed to like high volume keywords. Because for example, like if you're an e-commerce platform and you're
Yeah.
ranking for trying to rank for the same words as like a Shopify, you're not going
Okay.
to break through. Shopify
Yeah.
has the domain
That's a
authority
big,
there, like there's no
yeah.
way.
Yes.
But yeah, but like I see startups also using content differently. Like a lot of
Yeah.
it's more like community building or
Okay.
like just around like building kind of this brand world and this like fandom for your
Yeah.
product. And I think those are what make the products really successful over like, oh,
Okay.
let's focus on this like SEO strategy. It's like using content in a way that like actually connects with people and
Yeah.
allows them to be the leaders in the space. Because my hot take is I personally think SEO is almost like a tired strategy at this point. Like it's
Okay.
not what people want. Like, and
Yeah.
you can just tell from the consumers. The consumers don't want to read another how-to blog. I see this even even on social, like the
Yeah.
social media posts, like carousels on Instagram, for example. Like maybe back like 5-10 years ago, like a how-to um carousel with like 15 hashtags would have been like the way to grow your account. And now
Yes.
it's people are getting the lowest engagement on content like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
like
True. That's very true.
so I personally think look at the consumers, look at what they're consuming and look at their audience profile and how
Yeah.
they consume content, and that should determine the type of content you produce because at the end of the day, they're going to be your consumers and then ultimately your customers.
Yes. True. Thank you so much. That's
Yeah.
a really, really good advice. Thank you for sharing. Okay. So thank you so much, everyone. It's awesome to have you, Alexa. Thank you for all the knowledge you have shared concerning SEO and AI. Like I had no idea like so much was happening in the like AI was happening like AI was doing so much in the SEO world. I had no idea. I was using it. I was using AI for content creation, but I had no idea that it has moved
Yeah,
that
I
far.
mean, if anything, it's just changing the way
Yeah,
we approach optimization. And I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I just think it's
yeah,
like just changing how we structure content, how we get more value out of it, and how we just make it more meaningful and more impactful
yes,
to read.
yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. So thank you so much, Alexa, and thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe and follow. Thank you,
Yeah,
and see
thank
you in the
you.
next podcast. Yeah. Bye.